Lisa, what does Pence's testimony signal about the timeline of this investigation?
I certainly think that they're toward the end, Alicia, of the investigation, because traditionally prosecutors work up the food chain with respect to the importance of witnesses. Not always, but typically. And there is no one higher on the food chain with respect to proximity to the president than Mike Pence himself. Obviously, there were the 7 so-called dwarves who are also subject of an order to testify that include Mark Meadows. But between the two of them, I can't think of anyone more senior that could be before the grand jury than Pence and Meadows.
The timing of this, Lisa, is so critical. And of course, the goal of the special counsel was to insulate this investigation from politics, a high bar to clear. What are the challenges for Jack Smith and for A.G. Garland as they juggle charging decisions against the backdrop of a GOP primary calendar?
Well, certainly, Alicia, as you noted, against the backdrop of a GOP primary calendar, you certainly would want to try your case as close to the beginning of 2024 as is humanly possible. Otherwise, you're up against a person who's going to say that by the very nature of the case, you're interfering with their right to be a political candidate the further you get into that calendar. But of course, we also have another problem here, which is the multiplicity of actors who want to try Donald Trump. The New York Attorney General already has a civil trial scheduled in her civil fraud case for October. We also know the Manhattan DA expects to try his case sometime in early 2024 to spring of 2024. That hasn't yet been decided. And Jack Smith, if he brings indictments against Donald Trump, is going to have to slot himself in between those existing cases and whatever case Fani Willis may or may not bring.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, David. Mike Pence knows that timing, too. He's watching that timing, too. I thought about what his former aide, Olivia Troy, said to my colleague, Ali Velshi, which is sort of the same thing that you and I have said, which is they want to have their Trump and eat it, too. Talk to me about this high wire act, this balancing act that Mike Pence is doing, where he doesn't want to alienate Trump voters, but he's also saying this was wrong.
Yeah, that's right, Alicia. Look, the fact that there are no Republican presidential candidates going right at Donald Trump tells us what their actual strategy is, which is to be in place should Donald Trump stumble or fall as a result of some of these indictments. But look, we have not seen anything wound Donald Trump, including the indictment by D.A. Bragg. In fact, it actually helped him. So DeSantis, Pence, and others are thinking if there is a world in 2024 where defendant Donald Trump either loses his liberty, in which case he could still run, but perhaps at that point he's knocked out, or for some reason he's not able to carry through the Republican primary, then Pence and DeSantis want to be there. Nobody is going to take him on. Republican politics don't believe any of these charges against Donald Trump. Part of Trump's ethos within the party was you can't trust anybody but me, and it's worked. But look, you've got Pence and DeSantis who are going to run healthy races, flattering Donald Trump, hoping they don't end up a bridesmaid, hoping they end up the bride.